All right, good luck, guys. Good evening. This is the call to order for the special meeting of the Bridgeport Board of Education. Today's Monday, December 15th at 6:34. I'll take attendance. I'm Jennifer Perez. Here we have in person Rob Baker, Joanne Brooks Jennings, and Lamont Daniels. And then online, I see Marissa Shamira Jimenez, Joseph Sokolovic, and Andre Woodson. We'll get started. First item we have is public speaking, and so we have Jess Russell.
Everybody, good evening, members of the board, acting superintendent, Dr. Avery. Bridgeport's children have endured so much, 5 different superintendents in the past 7 years, hundreds of essential staff cut, schools with over 1,000 students, and only 1 social worker. This is not oversight, this is neglect. And while I speak to you tonight, members of the board, I want the commissioner listening to hear this clearly. The state is failing our children, and the families like mine will not stay silent. I speak as a parent who has lived this chaos. My daughter, now in 5th grade, has experienced instability no child should face. My husband and I, along with other families, attended every state listening session, hoping for answers. What did we get instead? Fewer resources, last-minute decisions, political stunts disguised as solutions. Commissioner, how much longer will Bridgeport's children be told through actions, not words, that their education is worth less? Last year, our schools were in turmoil. Meetings were tense and reactive. Communication was disjointed. Decisions were made in public conflict, disconnected from the needs of students and families. The consequences were felt in every classroom and every hallway. Then Dr. Avery stepped in. Things began to change. People started talking instead of shouting past each other. There is finally an effort to work together. Stability matters, and Dr. Avery has brought it. He has rebuilt trust, 1 marble at a time. His dedication has not gone unnoticed. We see and feel it. But stability alone cannot fix what the state has left broken. The commissioner, your office, has the power and the responsibility to act. Stop treating neglect as acceptable. Stop leaving families and children to pay the price. Bridgeport does not need disruption. We do not need another leadership shakeup. We need accountability. We need partnership. Dr. Avery has brought steadiness, and let's help him build on that and not tear it down. Our children deserve better. They deserve resources, support, and respect. We will not stop demanding it. Commissioner, it's time to act. Let Bridgeport rebuild marble by marble instead of starting over yet again. Thank you.
From October 2nd, 2025, in special meeting. Is there a motion through those minutes?
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Mr. Daniels abstains. Great. We have a presentation from Faith Villegas on the Bridgeport Public Education Fund.
Well, thank you. Should I stay here or?
If you want to go to breakfast.
We can see you. Well, you can see me. Well, hopefully I get technology right. I am from the old school. I was born in the late 1900s as one of the high schoolers informed me this Friday, and I had to gather myself because true indeed, I was born in the late 1900s and it is 2025. So not only do I want to talk about the late 1900s, but I came here tonight to talk about the Bridgeport Public Education Fund. Again, as board chair, Ms. Perez, thank you. Announced, my name is Faith Villegas, but my maiden name is Faith Harrison. So if you happen to go, for my data people, PJ, and look at some Bridgeport Public School data, you just may see Faith Harrison there, and don't look at the discipline reports, just the academics, okay? But class of 1995 from Warren Harding High School. But I also attended what was formerly Newfield Middle School and then Dunbar Middle School. So I bring that up to say that not only am I a service provider here for the past 25 or so years, but I've also been a parent when my children attended both Madison and Fairchild Willing High Schools. to get their high school diplomas, and one is a graduate of Housatonic Community College, and the other one is a junior/senior at Morgan State University, majoring in cybersecurity, and she should be getting on the train to come home tomorrow. So you're gonna get everything from me tonight because I may not be around tomorrow. So the agency I represent, see, look, technology in me. Am I doing it right?
Turn on the.
There you go. Transitions, I'll tell you. I thought they were just for glasses. But the Bridgeport Public Education Fund, we are a 501c3 that was created in 1983. And that's pretty unique because we were literally founded with one purpose. Well, maybe two. But our primary targets are students and educators. So you'll see a couple of photos throughout this presentation representing students from your Bridgeport Public School, as well as educators and community leaders. We recognize the need to do inspiration, recognition, and support. And not only do we focus on our educators, we also focus on our students and last but not least, the full community of Bridgeport, because we do believe that students will be the driver and the sustainers of change. Us adults, we're great, we're good. But as each generation continues to grow, I'm going to give you a little history about what we've done in the past, and I'm going to bring you all the way up to the future and where we're going. So if you could bear with me. Okay. We started off doing mini grants to teachers where 1983, again, giving almost $1 million to small projects, to classrooms. I don't know, Mr. Rod Traver shaking his head. You remember your sticker?
Yeah.
You did too? And we were funding projects, programs, just resources that we thought would improve student outcomes. We also used to do First Day that lasted for 21 years, where we were concerned about enrichment of students reading and writing, right? Because if you can read, you can potentially do math, right? So we wanted to make sure that we did that, and it was called First Day because we focused on every first grade classroom in come in and provided books to every first grade student, hoping to help build their library, but also their love of reading. Okay, so we also had what was called the Charter Oak Scholarship Program. And in that program, we had some donors who, as you can see, provided significant funding for 126 students to attend post-secondary education. Each year, 15 students from Bridgeport would actually get a $10,000 scholarship payable over 4 years. Out of that 126 students, 99 of them were Bridgeport Public High School students. That is significant to me. And I will tell you, they have gone on to complete bachelor's degrees or higher. I know 4 that are actually doctors out of that group, and they are many, many more. So that program is no longer in place, but stay tuned, we have another surprise. So moving forward, we want to continue to facilitate events and programming that recognizes the importance of education, leadership, and community engagement. I was about to say like Ms. Rexler talked about, but she's not in the room right now. So for 32 years, these next couple of slides is going to talk about how we've worked with our educators. We have supported 245 Bridgeport Public Schools teachers for their excellence that they exhibited in the classroom, okay? And we have provided each teacher with $1,000 worth of professional development. So over $250,000 committed to the city of Bridgeport, Bridgeport Public Schools solely for teachers' professional development. And I can share with you with confidence, most of that money is actually utilized for classroom materials. We're talking about flexible seating, we're talking about materials and manipulatives that will support the curriculum that teachers are currently using. But I think it's a pretty significant mention in this slide because Dr. Avery and I were on a panel last week, and our neighboring city of Stratford or town of Stratford, they are now starting to do what? Mini grants, starting at $500 through the business community. We were doing that 40 some odd years ago. So if you didn't know, Bridgeport has been ahead of the time or ahead of the curve for many, many years. We just need to get back there. We've also recognized 44 educators, again, classroom teachers with the Theodore and Margaret Beard Excellence in Teaching Award. Anyone here ever get that award? No, I wish you would have. Sorry, Mr. Trevor. Sorry, fella. But that award is actually $20,000. It is the second largest educator prize in the United States of America. And it's only dedicated to this particular school system, the Bridgeport Public Schools. Again, my predecessor, Ms. Margaret Hiller, or Marge Hiller, as you all know her, I have to give her credit for establishing a number of these opportunities for our community. And so far, we're looking at about $800,000 as gift to these recipients. Many of them have remained in the district because a part of our model was to pay out that $20,000 to 2 teachers annually over the course of 3 years. We know that we don't, work in HR, but we try in our own little way to promote teacher recruitment and retention, because if I can get $20,000 for being an excellent classroom teacher, I'll take it. You all heard it, right?
Yeah.
Mhm. So when I get into teaching, make sure you think about me. We've also established what was called the George E. Bellinger Leadership Award. Again, we don't want to leave any of our school community out of our equation of change. And so George Bellinger, he was one of our longtime board members, but he was a notable manufacturer here in Bridgeport. He created BarPat, which had patents and created products for NASA. I mean, he was high level, but one of the other things he did in the Bridgeport community was to help found RISAT, which is now formerly known as Catalyst CT. But before he did that, he was on the board of the Bridgeport Public Education Fund, and his wife, Ms. Barbara Bellinger, who was working at People's Bank as one of their local leaders. So we have given $20,000 to an administrator. They do get a check, so those applications will be coming out soon. So make sure we encourage and we inspire our school leadership and our educators to nominate for the Bellinger Leadership Award. Now we have the Elizabeth M. Freeman Civic Award. Anyone know of Betty Freeman? Ever heard of her? Elizabeth Freeman was the, if you've been around Bridgeport long enough, you know before it was the CT Post, it was the Bridgeport Post. She was the owner of the CT Post, but she was a noted philanthropist throughout the Northeast, all the way until Philadelphia or Pennsylvania, I should say, the home state, where her family was notable there as well. We've given 40 different individuals or organizations recognition for their work in contributing to the larger Bridgeport community, but with a focus on education. So again, we try to leave no target untouched in the work that we do. And those individuals were able to get gold lapel pin, 14 karat gold, but then there were others that we started to now provide $1,000 small grants to different community-based organizations, hoping that they would be able to do something a little bit more impactful with those dollars than just have a gold lapel pin. It's not a bad thing if you can get it, but we understand the needs of our community. And we want to support other community organizations. So the young lady here, I have to change her last name. It's no longer Felicia Garan. It's Felicia Garan Florimond. If you have gone to the Housatonic Community College or Connecticut State College campus locally here, you will see her as the number 1 or number 2 leader in the manufacturing over at Housatonic Community College. She was one of our students. She is also a Central High School graduate. BPF's greatest work is done with students, by students, and for students. And the reason why I say that is because, again, going back to talking about what's measurable, how do you know that you're making impact? We know that we're making impact by the work that we're doing with our students and how we're able to measure their progress. This is not about perfection. It's about, are they moving the needle for themselves and their families? So our next slide. Now it's just changing colors. Okay. It talks about, okay. It talks about our MAX program. The organization started in 1983. It took us 5 short years to realize that ooh, we needed to do a little bit more work. That's when the MAX program was started at Basic High School. They were our first partners. Then we were able to expand to all 5 of the comprehensive high schools by 2013. I was going to say, let me make sure I'm keeping track, by 2013. And our organization was truly founded to address the high dropout rate and the low college attendance rate of Bridgeport Public High School students. You all remember me saying I was an alumni. I am an alum of the Bridgeport Public Schools. When I see words like that, it gets to me, does something to me. It makes me dig in and fight a little bit hard. This is how I continue to fight. Our MAX program is a 26-week high school program where college students from the local universities where students can commute back and forth. They come in during the school day and they sit with students one-on-one to help them to develop personal, academic, and financial goals. Kind of like what the district is asking students to do when they ask for student success plans, right? We've been doing this work since 1988 to help students to understand success doesn't start as soon as you exit the doors. It starts while you're sitting in these seats. So we try to help them to pair them up with college students that'll help them to develop those goals. And so far, 94% of our students, our seniors, who have said, Miss, I want to go to college, 2-year or 4-year, they have been accepted. Do they go? Not all of them. But we help them design an alternative pathway if that's not where they want to go immediately. Again, 400 volunteer service learning hours for our college students. So not only do they come in and get paid by us, but they also volunteer and do service learning based on some of the agreements that we have with the colleges and universities throughout our, let's say, Fairfield County catchment area. And over 14,000 hours of mentoring to our high school students. And this little man right here is my son. He's now 24 years old and his hair looks nothing like that anymore. But this is nostalgic for me. And the MAX program started in 1988, 5 years after the organization. We ran that program. We thought we were doing a successful job, but then March Hiller, the founding executive director of BPEF, ran into a parent in the grocery store. How is your daughter doing? My daughter dropped out because she had a $2,500 tuition. Not to be in anyone's business, but can you all afford to cover $2,500 in the tuition gap for your child? Raise your hand if you can. That's all, gainfully employed. I know that you can. But the point being is that there were so many obstacles for our first generation, first in the family students to attend college. But nowhere in our theory of change did we think that it would be a tuition gap that would stop a student in their tracks. We found a solution for that. It was called the College Assistance Program. And right now, the College Assistance Program has worked with 646 students to date because there is a criteria. You just don't come into the program. You need to be in our MAX program, our high school mentoring program, for 2 or more years. You needed to come to a college readiness and success workshop that's held at Housatonic Community College, and your parent needed to give you permission. 46 students, from the class of 2003 to the class of 2025 have entered into that program. And I can tell you, at this point, 346 have graduated with an undergraduate degree or higher. I want to say that 79 or so have gone on to complete certifications. We have 11 that have gone into the armed services, rather that's the Army, the Navy, the Marines, and/or police departments in our local community. We also have 100 or so that are still in college working toward their undergraduate degree. So this is numbers that we're very proud of. And as we ran these data through National Student Clearinghouse, we have what is a 73% college completion rate. You can clap for that. No, but seriously, we have a 73% college completion rate. Does anyone know the national average?
Sorry, I cheated. 62.
62%. So if no one ever told you, your Bridgeport Public School students who have gotten the support that they needed, whether it's financially, socially, emotionally, they are succeeding at a greater average. So just wanted to share that with you. And as you see, we have some stats here for the PhDs, the masters, the medical doctors, the certifications, the bachelors, and the associates. So when people say that students in Bridgeport can't achieve, that they do not succeed, you tell them, that's a lie. We know better. So we've distributed over $800,000 in funding to purchase textbooks, tuition, and transportation. Because again, we now understood after running the MAX program for 25, almost 30 years, hey, you need to make a change. Because the students that you're getting into college are not ensuring that they graduate from college. So, and those students also have access to scholarships. Right now, we have 4 family-funded scholarships. One is for textbooks only. The other 3 are, again, $10,000 scholarships payable over 4 years for students to go to any college in the United States and its territories, okay? We went through this already. That's Felicia again. This was at our CAP reunion. Don't mind me, I was a little younger and thinner here, but still me. And Mr. Teron Jones, he was working in the city of Bridgeport. Again, another one of our graduates who is now an associate professor at the University of Bridgeport and Southern Connecticut State University, Bassett High School, class of 2003. Okay. Now, I talked about the past. I want to bring you to the future. And about a year now, I sat with the city of Bridgeport, negotiated a contract to now pilot or launch, if you will, the Bridgeport Promise Scholarship Program. The city of Bridgeport has allocated about $1.5 million between ARPA money and money from city coffers to ensure that we put the building blocks for this program together. Tell them I'll call them back. To put the building blocks together for the Bridgeport Promise Scholarship Program to really, again, make it or fashion it in a way that's going to be useful, but also sustainable for our community. You will hear about New Haven, Waterbury, and Hartford Promise programs, and there are Promise programs throughout the country, but Bridgeport now has its own. We are taking on the baby of the group, personality, but we know within 4 to 5 years, we hope to be the lead in this. Right now, we are getting support from the city of Bridgeport, as I talked about, the Bridgeport City Council, Board of Education. Thank you, Dr. Avery. Thank you to our Board of Education and private foundations who are coming on board to help us financially support this. And before you get to the rest of your agenda, I did not ask the Bridgeport Board of Education for any money. Joe was staring me down like, we gave out money. You did not give out money, Jeff. But never too late to ask. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. Any questions so far? Okay. Now, there are 4 pillars of the Promise program. Academic excellence. We are looking for a 3.0 GPA. Every single grade matters. I don't care if it's your, what do we call it? Where are my educators in the room? Electives versus, there you go. Get an A in all of them is the message that we're sending to students because every single grade matters. Consistent attendance. We need at least a 90% attendance records for students to be eligible for the Bridgeport Promise program. Positive disciplinary record. If you're getting exposed, I don't know if we can support that, but we are looking to create an appeals process where, again, We don't know all of the details. We don't know why things happen the way that they do happen, but we do know that expulsions on anyone's record is maybe not a good thing, but we also want to be fair and equitable in the way that we distribute this scholarship. Must be a Bridgeport resident and continually attend Bridgeport Public Schools from ninth grade on. And I just want to put a disclaimer. I know that I'm going to get some flack because they're like, why not just all Bridgeport students, no matter what school they attend or school systems they attend? We just talked about the fluctuating graduation rates. We just talked about, or you will talk about, the budget deficits that we've experienced year over year over year. We can talk about, I know, Jill, I'm sorry, I don't want to take your thunder, but we can talk about the school counselor to student ratio. Okay? We can talk about the teacher to student ratio. There were hard decisions. There were a number of us in the room, and I really fought back to say, listen, this is where we need to start. It's not that we can't explore and open this up in phase 2 for other school systems, but we understood that right now Bridgeport has the greatest need, and that's where we felt we needed to start. So, Anthony, you have any? No. Gotta go tell me. We are starting with the class of 2026 when Carly Roca Reyes and Mr. Carafa, thank you for that. They did an assessment as we were, again, putting together the building blocks to see how many students actually met the criteria of those 4 pillars. And I believe it was almost 350 at the time that met that. And I'm quite certain with the work that all of you have been doing, parting coming off of that turnaround list, I'm certain that number has actually grown. And if it is, we're going to be really, really excited. So, but we also want to work with students in lower grades. So not only are we going to start scholarshiping the class of 2026, we understand that we need to go back all the way to our middle schools, starting in 6th grade, to help students to understand you need to build a sturdy foundation that your house of success will be built upon. Okay, so we will be working with students and their families to help them to understand what they need to be doing at that grade level and how to proceed throughout our Bridgeport Public Schools. And you can see in your packet, we will be supporting those kids all the way until they complete their 2 or 4-year college degree. So they can enroll. Our website is up. It's ready. BridgeportPromiseCT.org. Whenever they are ready, but we are focusing on those comprehensive high schools so far. Right now, we have 3 college partners and 1 that's sitting in my inbox waiting for the agreement to be signed. But the University of New Haven, Albertus Magnus, and the University of Connecticut, they are ready to provide minimum $25,000 a year per student. Okay. Campus employment, we work that into the agreement to say, listen, one of the things our students worry about is finance. Can we ensure that they are in line for federal work study dollars or employment dollars on your campus? That's part of our articulation agreement. Early college experience courses. We want our students to be taking those courses so they can be better prepared or even cut down some of their college costs because they can get credits before they even get there. And again, ECE courses are not a new thing, but when it comes to this agreement, we want to make sure that we're getting those students in there and that they're taking advantage of those opportunities and mentorship. Each one of these universities have created a group or some liaisons that our students will be meeting with because they have other promises that have been operating for a number of years, New Haven being the longest at 12. They have actually started to do cohorts. So each promise program, each year that they come in, they put the kids in what's called a promise cohort. So our Bridgeport students, when they go on, they're going to meet kids from the New Haven, Waterbury, and Hartford community, which I think is a good thing, right? Because sometimes we can get territorial. The state is too small for that. In Central Connecticut State University, University of Bridgeport, Sacred Heart and Fairfield University are also on the list. and they are actively engaging in conversations with me, Southern as well. And I'm hoping to have them online and ready to go before January 1st. So please pray for me as I will be doing this during the Christmas holiday. Right now, we are doing this work with the help of donors, foundations, and sponsors. And I want to repeat that. We are doing this with the help of donors, foundations, and sponsors. I know that we have some challenges that we are set to address throughout this year. It's going to be a lot of hand wringing and difficult decisions being made. But I want you to know that we are here to support you guys. We're not here to ask for any additional money and additional support outside of what the district can potentially give us, which is the staffing and in-kind space at the high schools. Any questions so far?
Oh, thank you. You just mentioned that last part of things. But me personally, as a board member, as a community, leader, what can we do more to support you? Where else can we go? I know you mentioned that you're gonna, through the holidays, you're gonna be visiting some of those colleges or contacting. I don't know if you actually are visiting them or not, as far as being in person. I mean, what can we do to support you and be present, just know that we're working with you, collaborating?
Well, I would say right now, the biggest thing that we all need to be doing in this room, and thank you for that question, is making sure that we address the narrative about our public school system. I think I've talked to Joe, I talked to Rob, I'm talking to you, I'm talking to Jennifer, I'm talking to Mr. Lamont. I think he might be the only one that I haven't spoken to. When I say speak to, call on the phone in the lobby, I will corner you. And I will talk about, hey, we need to change the narrative. But that starts with us in this room. How we talk to each other, how we talk about our school, and how we talk about our students. I think that is the biggest gift that the Board of Education can give me. If you cannot write a check for $1 million, that will be the biggest gift, because again, our students, they come back and tell us these stories. They don't like reading about their schools in their sociology textbooks. They don't like hearing about Bridgeport as a community being an abject failure when they're sitting in a private college city paying $85,000 a year. But now oh, you're from Bridgeport? You must be, no, they're not DEI. They're not any of that. They got in that seat because they deserved it. And I feel like that is the biggest thing that we can do. Not just change the narrative, shift the narrative to the positive. So that way other communities can start to come along and understand, hey, it's not what we thought it was. It's very different.
Yes, thank you. As far as number of scholarships, if there are more applicants than available scholarships, what's the selection criteria?
Selection criteria for one are those 4 eligibility standards, right? And the 5th one is actually completing your FAFSA or your ACTS. Here's the thing, you saw only Connecticut institutions listed there, right? So Promise programs, like many of them around the country, is dedicated to keeping the talent within the state's borders. So we know quite naturally, some students would like to get out of here. My student is down in Baltimore, or my child is down in Baltimore. And we feel like a lot of other students will decide, hey, we love what you're doing. We appreciate the incentives that the Connecticut institutions are giving us. But I want to see a different part of the world. And we can't control that. So out of the 350 that are actually eligible at this point in time, we do anticipate at least 175 will take us up on that offer. So that is where we're trying to do some work with the school counseling department and Carly to get the message out to our students who are eligible. I just talked to PJ about some data exporting so we can send letters to parents and students who are eligible so we can start to build not only the database for our students, but also getting them to identify, are you going to a Connecticut institution? Because if they will be, then we want to make sure they know which institutions are supporting them and at what level, because it matters.
I don't see, anticipated application period?
The anticipation application period is actually, it started, I want to say after the first report card conference, so that was mid-November. So right now, we're getting students who are getting onto the platform, indicating where they might want to go, but there are other pieces that the school counseling department has to upload, like their transcripts. If the students don't use SCORE, I think that's the data system. If they don't utilize their information from SCORE, we're asking that the school counselors actually upload that information. But a training has to happen before that. So after the holidays, we'll get that ready. But by February 15th, we want to get the first list to all of our college partners of most likely to attend your institution. So that way, before those award letters come out and students are presented with, hey, this is your scholarship, this is your merit-based aid, this is your need-based aid. We want them to make informed decisions, not just decisions by default.
Thank you.
You're
Ms. Esther Mary Menace?
Yeah, thank you. I had just a few questions about the whoops, here we go. Around the $1.5 million. And first I wanna just preface my question around, thank you so much for the presentation, because I had no idea you guys provided so many different scholarships, and I really appreciate that. And I can actually relate to going to college and not knowing how we're going to pay it and being super stressed out about it. So my question around the $1.5 million is what happens, twofold. How long time frame do we expect the $1.5 million to last us? And what happens after the money's exhausted? Would we go out and get additional donors to keep Bridgeport Promise going?
Great question, Ms. Jimenez. She had a really great question, so I will answer it to you this way. We are actually building out the program in a way that we had to hire a director of development whose job is going to be to go out and raise money. We have actually submitted 2 grants already, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute, but we are not expected to extend that $1.5 million until that second cohort gets in. So we kind of budgeted for $500,000 for each for the inaugural class of 2026 and 2027. But along the lines, we will still be fundraising and trying to do dollars, and that's the role of the Bridgeport Public Education Fund. And we do hope that the city, Anthony's gone, that the city of Bridgeport will continue to make an annual allocation, because these are your youngest citizens and these are our babies. And we need to invest in the future. So it's our hope that we do not run out of money. That is bad for business. And that's why I started off the presentation talking about our work since 1983 and how we've been consistent in not just changing when we needed to change, but also understanding where we needed to be in that change.
Yeah.
So we are actively fundraising and speaking to foundations such as the Scripps Foundation for Education and the Arts. We have already had meetings with M&T Bank to talk about their financial support of the Bridgeport Promise programs. And there are many more conversations to be had.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
One, I still have my nets. Any grant that got fishing nets for an annual field trip, my class took for 20 years. But on this, this is, kids are applying now for next fall,
Applying for funds.
early admissions.
No, that is why we couldn't start that process earlier, because early admissions and early action, as you know, the difference between those two. For students that are going into some of our partner institutions, they know that they're going to revise those financial aid packages if that is the case. But that is why we didn't try to start
Down
in
the line.
October.
Down the line.
Yes.
Seeing no more questions.
Chair.
Yes.
Have you had, is your website, you say you just finished it, is it connected to our website? Have we worked on that transition between us and you?
If not, I will follow up with Giancarlo to make sure, because I do know that it was put on I feel like it was put on the district's website, but we were trying to get it onto the high school website.
So
So
we
that
can
way,
do all of that. You may get with PJ's department and we can connect those to, they should be on every single high school campus in the district. So you have families that really kind of congregate in their high school campus websites. So let's make sure we can connect it that one. We'll work with you on that.
thank you so much, Dr. Avery. And one last student, because I showed you a student from Bassett, I showed you a student from Central. This is a student from Hardin. Her name is Dr. Alexandria Wilhoit. She is Warren Harding High School class of 2008. She is the Director of Career and Technical Education STEM program at the Academy Charter School in Bronx, New York. Bridgeport Public School graduate. Again, we are leading, we are a force to be reckoned with. If anyone who doesn't want to recognize that, we just ignore it.
So I'm
Just saying.
She's at Bridgeport anyway, so graduate.
Alex is everywhere. She actually was the board rep too.
Exactly. On Seaside Party.
She was the student board rep. So if you want to reach me, cell phone is the best way, but I've left my email address here. And you can always come and visit on the lovely campus of the University of Bridgeport. No, we are not a UB program, but we have space on their campus at 271 Park Avenue, literally a block down from PJ's office. So if you stop in to see PJ, you can stop in to see me. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey, keep me connected. Let's make sure we kind of keep things rolling a little bit over time.
Thank you to Lamont Daniels. Sorry. Mr. Lamont Daniels, although he's a Board of Education member now, but Lamont and I have actually known each other since he worked at the city of Bridgeport 10 years ago, maybe? Oh, wow, 12 years ago, maybe. But I ran for Board of Education as well. And, you know, when you need that listening ear or someone to cry, I always say, oh my God. But he has been instrumental in actually helping me to contextualize the work that we did and actually presenting it to the city of Bridgeport. So I want to actually thank Mr. Lamont Daniels as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, next we have, we're going to go to the states and phase one of the demolition and abatement for Winthrop.
Can we stand up there? Can I stand here like that?
Yeah.
You can stand there.
Want to go up?
You wanna go here? Oh, okay, go for it. There you go.
For those of you who don't know me, I'm Michelle Otero. I run school construction on behalf of the city of Bridgeport. I'm coming to you today to basically sign this cute sheet of paper saying that we are authorized to go out for phase one, which is demolition and abatement of Winthrop Elementary School. That's really all it is.
Questions? And no, Mr. Jaber?
Yeah, what is, just, can you elaborate, what are we tearing down?
So we're, because this is selective demolition, so as long as we maintain 55% of the original building, pretty much the rest will go. So it's kind of in a variety of areas. We're still working on the layout as is, but for every phase that we go into, so this particular project is going to be done in 3 phases. Phase 1 is demo and abatement, phase 2 is construction and site work, then phase 3 will be FF&E and playscapes. So for every single phase, I have to go to the state to get their blessings. They can issue us that nice little letter that says we'll reimburse you. So that's just what we're doing today. And we're hoping to go to the state in January.
It's just a call. Sorry.
Yes, yeah, quick question about the timeline about when would the demolition and things start? Because as you may or may not know that there are still students in BMA, which was the intended swing space.
Correct.
Where the student, that's property.
So the way, and again, working in conjunction with building operations, the way we have it is we've pushed this phase 1 off until the tail ends of June. And hoping to give enough time to be able to get the students out, and then building operations is gonna come in, pull some of the stuff they need out of the building as well.
So the intent is that we will move BMA, we're working on the details now of moving BMA over to Fairchild Wheeler on a temporary basis. We had to move the scheduled demolition back into June in order to keep the whole population of BMA together, which was a very important. And then we will have around 3 weeks, plus or minus, to be able to get in. There's lockers, millwork, and things of value that we want to pull out. We'll be working alongside the construction team to go ahead and then move over the furniture and all of the day-to-day needs that reside within Winthrop over to BMA. Right after we move BMA out and into Fairchild Wheeler. There's a lot of junk this summer, but we've opened 5 buildings in 1 year. So we know that we can make this happen and we have a good plan in place.
Is Fairchild Wheeler a given or is it all locked in place?
Yep.
So no need for a plan B?
No need for a plan B.
Mr. Shaver? Ms. Juanita?
Thank you. You mentioned 3 phases, 1, 2, and 3, and 2 being the construction part of it.
Yeah.
Is that still the plan for skating being constructed in that site? How is that being?
Moving the skating school into the Winthrop, yes.
Well, is there 2 buildings being? It was.
So our expectation right now is all technically one school, one facility, but there will be a wing that is devoted to skating specifically.
So skating will have an identity within the building. They have their separate entrances. So, we wanted to make sure that the integrity of both programs was met. And the design team did a tremendous job putting that together for us.
Since I'm new to these plans, where may I, or even the entire board, see those schematic? How many students are going to be allowed in that building? What's the number in that building as a whole?
So altogether, it's 750 kids
So 750 as a whole. So
as
that
a whole,
means
correct?
part is going to be John Winthrop
Yes,
and part is going to be skate.
yes. Skating is about 200 kids, but they come in 2 different waves. So it's usually like 100 at a time. So, yeah.
I get you out.
And as you can see, we did present to the parents, just keeping them engaged. We want to make sure that there's community involvement and comment. So we had a meeting with the parents group. We intend on going back out, opening that meeting up to the whole community. But on our website, the building operations website, there is that presentation that gives you some of the overview of that project.
Does anybody have offhand what's the size of Winthrop right now? How many students are registered at John Winthrop right now?
You did give you that.
I'm looking right at PJ, yeah.
Right. Give me a second, I'm pulling it down, yeah.
One of the elements, just as we were for PJ, of that project is that we will be taking all of the traffic off of the roadway, which, as we all know, is a nightmare. And it will be all on-site circulation, so making a safer environment for everyone.
586.
Any other questions? Is there a motion?
To approve phase 1 demolition and abatement of Winthrop Elementary School.
Second,
Second,
any further questions? None, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great.
Thank you. Can I get your signature?
You go quick.
Yes.
You don't get it.
All right. Next on the program to defer the layoff of the administrator of the juvenile detention center.
Sure. So last spring and summer, when the layoffs were happening, we had sent a letter to Katisha Howard, who's currently the administrator of the Juvenile Detention Center program, that her layoff was deferred till December 30th, 2025. So since that's in a couple weeks, we're here to ask the board if you would consider deferring her layoff until the end of the school year 2026. We're required to have an administrator at the juvenile detention center to help those students there. So we would request instead of enacting a layoff on December 30th, that we would extend it to the end of the school year in 2026.
Questions?
Question is, yeah, first I'd like to make a comment. When we're discussing budgets and positions, can we not use names of the people? Because that personalizes it entirely too much to make it a thorough decision. It's not one. And two, what would the cost of this deferred layoff be to an impact on the 26 budget, 26, 27? No, for the remainder of this budget cycle, which 25, 26 budget cycle, which has already just been discovered that we have close to a $10 million budget hole to close that we haven't begun to address yet. And what additional place should we make the cut to make up for it if we were to so approve that tonight?
I believe the position's allocated for through the year. It's just a matter of that we had this letter that was out there as a layoff, so we would need an administrator anyway in the program.
Yeah, I think, through the chair, I think when we budgeted for the position this past year, it was a full year's salary that was actually budget. Although we only had permission for the board to take it to a half year. So the funds is already there. It's just a matter of we wanted to make sure that we brought this back to the board for permission and not just, pile through it and not get the board's approval with it. So
Hey,
Follow question.
I'm on this board meeting, but I've got it on,
You're not on mute.
I got it on.
There you go. Thanks, Mario.
Okay, direct question for the CFO. When you last presented the budget to us with this item in it and the 6-month deferral, were those savings not baked into the number you presented that day?
Well, it was.
What is it? So what?
The 6 months, the remaining 6 months savings was then. The only thing the board did was absorb the first 6 months expense.
Correct, so we added 6 months to it. So now if we do defer this layoff to December, we are adding another 6 months of this individual's salary to the budget deficit. We're going from 9 point something million to whatever the cost of this is, and so that will have to be made up with a corresponding cut somewhere else.
Again, sorry, Madam Chair, if I may. And like Dr. Siano said, when it's, either way, if we let the person off, let's just be honest, they're going to be entitled to collect unemployment. Then we are bound to have a supervisor there. We're going to go and hire somebody else in order to meet the requirement.
So I'm sorry.
Again, I'm just
Yeah.
discussing the reality.
Yeah, so
Without here, all I'm trying to reflect.
then why was it presented as a cost savings initially when we had the first conversation that we need to save this money? Did we need to have an administrator there back then? Because this was put forth as a cost saving measure, one of the cost saving measure. And now, if this position is eliminated, there's absolutely nobody in this thing. So there was never any possibility of saving money by eliminating that position, is what you're telling me now, which is in direct contravention of what we were told then, we could save money.
Through the chair, I think you just add a little bit more to it, Mr. Kobeck. One of the things that happened when we did a cost savings for this position, the state came back to us and said, no, you can't cut the position. So you have to be able to have somebody there. So yes, I understand what you're saying, but I think it's also being able to supervise the children in that detention center. We have to be able to sometimes you have to change with straight through things. Okay. So we're working through that as best we possibly can. But again, we wanted to make sure that we presented to the board to say, we really need a position. Could we go extend this out? That's what we're asking for. We'll work through the cost savings, we'll work through all of that.
And final point on this matter, myself anyway. When did the state tell us and why do we keep getting information the last week, December 31st, 20?
Well, I think this was when
Did we just find out from the state that we need to?
we brought the position back, that's when they told us.
Yes.
A few months at the end of the school year, when we brought the position back, there's a list of positions we brought back. And this was one of them. And
There's more coming down the pipe as well, due to the timeline of when they're coming back, right? So
I'm sorry, I don't mean to be difficult, but I'm trying to get clarity around the subject. So if they told us last year that we need to have this position in place, why wasn't that brought up when we made the cut in the first place? That you can't cut that. That's a mandated service by the state. You need to keep that in place for the whole entire year.
we did
It's a
not,
sacred cow that we cannot cut.
we did not hear right at the time when we made the cut, sir. Okay, and then we got the clarity that we needed from that point. We moved forward. There was a need. She's an excellent mistress. She's done a really super job there. If you need to go and visit, I would love for you to go and visit as well. I think you get there. So again, it's important to be able to fight for the things that we need, and that is one of the things we need. What we're requesting with this agenda item is for the board to, accept the additional 6 months for us to kind of work through getting her to stay in the position.
Absolutely, and I get you 100%. Just on final point is mention something that, again, personalizing position that they're doing a wonderful job. Every single position I voted to eliminate in the last 2 years was valuable positions of people doing their jobs, and they were all valued, and they were all doing a great job. Just because there's a layoff does not mean they're doing a bad job.
Good point.
Yeah, listen, we can't do this on everything, but Mr. Sakalovic is right. We established a budget, and when the state tells us something different afterwards, we need to know as soon as possible that the state has informed us of something different. And I'm going to give you the which I think I'm preaching to the choir here. The state's holding $5 million over on the side that should come to us. It would help pay for this and whatever else we're going to end up cutting. And they're playing games with the city and whoever else about what hoops we have to jump through to get this $5 million and whether we'll ever get it by the end of the year. Meanwhile, they're telling us we have to pay for this position, which has students from multiple districts in this region that we're responsible for. Now, I worked in a juvenile detention center in New Haven, 1970s, early 70s. I understand what the importance of these children and their education and taking care of them. I support it fully. I don't want to, this is ludicrous that we even think about taking care of them and the staff and the responsibility of taking care of these children. That is not an issue in my mind at all. But that the state plays games with us on this and the funding to do this and says you have to do this, knowing our financial situation while it's holding back $5 million, that's what's really ludicrous. So I do understand the frustration that Mr. Skalovic is expressing, and not towards the superintendent, but towards the ultimate sort of adjudicator of where we get money and when we get money. And so that's the frustration that sort of just, it's like, it's death by 1,000 cuts. And that's what's just frustrating as we sit here trying to do the best job we can. And then it's like, oh, here's another cut, fellas. So thank you. That's it, Madam Chair.
Mr. Medina?
Thank you. I don't know who dropped the ball. I mean, that we were talking, I agreed with Mr. Sakalovic and Mr. Traver, and I don't want to hit the nail in the head, but that's the only hammer I have is to make sure that I don't miss. Somebody dropped the ball. Next meeting is January 12th, 2026, according to our calendar. This is coming to us in a special meeting today. We supposedly had no agenda items November 24th, and we didn't have a meeting. So this should have came sooner. Yes, this position matters. And whenever we found out, this should have been brought up, whether it was in committee or whether it was through the chair at that time, and the chair still right now, but this should have came up sooner. I don't know who dropped the ball, but this is a thing that we cannot allow to continue to do. It was done before. We were getting things last minute, and now we're forced to make a decision, because if we don't do something today, what happens? We're not gonna have another meeting until January 12th, or if the chair decides to do a special meeting to make sure. What is the savings? You know, I need a number. What is the savings or not savings? What are it costing us to keep this position thing? Again, we go outside of that. I need a number.
Maybe, so.
Oh, we get that. Speaking of the students that are in the program, do they get tuition reimbursement from their districts?
Yes, the state juvenile department provides a budgetary allowance for what happens because of the other districts that are paying for those students to reside at the detention center. Money goes into that in order to fund that particular position and teaching positions in there. So it's all lumped up and they provide that. So the salary for that position will also be part of that. That allocation that is part of that. So you can use it for just teachers if need be, equipment, curriculum, those types of things. So it could easily be broken out that way.
So if we get tuition reimbursement, then that money go for the staffing?
Yes.
That it's not coming out of our budget.
And it can actually come out of our, I think normally over the past couple of years, the districts just took over the cost of that, not necessarily using those grant funds for the reimbursement funds to be able to do it. And so even like last year, it came out of operation and not necessarily because we were like having someone from staff go over and be the supervisor in that building. So in talking with the state supervisors that come and regulates that campus, we talked a little bit about making sure we get somebody full-time there. So that's what when we established the full-time AP position in the building and working through it that way. So did we find?
Yeah, the combination, the salaries plus fringe benefits, it's about $160,000 for the year. So 6 months is about $80,000 net, total cost, including the benefits and the salary. And the employees are certified, personnel, meaning that they belong to the teachers union. So the district does not have to pay their pension cost. The state pays your pension cost. So if he was a regular employee, then you're gonna have to tag on 20% of your salary towards the pension, but the state absorbs pension costs for all certified personnel.
So if I understand, the position is roughly 160K. We're averaging about 50%. Rest, so it's about 80,000 for this position that we have to
Inclusive of the health
benefits and all that stuff. That's what you're talking.
80,000 out the door.
Thank you. The reason why I asked that question, the reason why I'm somewhat, and I apologize if anybody took offense to who dropped the ball, and we'll soon find out about that, because I spent over 20+ years ministering in the prisons, not only statewide, but also federal. So I know what it means for this. I've been in these places, even at missing youth, bringing ministry and bringing, Bible studies and preaching over to these kids. So I understand what it is to have a kid in front of me that can't read a Bible, can't join in conversation because of issues with education. So this is a very high passionate area of mine, and I would love to go on business with that invitation to Mr. Sakala. I've been dying to have somebody approach me because I made this invitation before. I would love to get involved to help out. Because I couldn't do it back when I had those state certification, that federal certification, I couldn't visit their children, or I couldn't go into a place like that, a juvenile detention because of that conflict. But now I'm not involved in that right now, so I can go in. So, that's all I have to say.
Through the chair.
Yes.
So, Mr. Bennett, you need someone to hold accountable. You can hold me accountable for not dropping the ball on that. So I'll take full responsibility to not getting that to the board. Again, we're juggling 50 million things around here, but I'll take full ownership of that and I'll own it. And I'll make sure that it's going to be taken care of. But again, it's important that we look at that. Again, I didn't want to not do it because we didn't have to bring it back. But I wanted to make sure that we're very transparent to the board in the things that we do under my leadership. And so if you want to blame someone, blame me. I'll take full ownership of it. And we know what we have to do in order to fix this. And we're going to fix it. And we'll make sure we have a few more coming up that's going to be considered. So we need to bring them to the table and let you deal with them now. And we'll definitely do that for you as well.
I appreciate you saying so, but then at the same time, now that it is you taking the responsibility, let me know what I can do to support. Because, we're only here to put our best foot forward, and we want every child, not only the ones that are in a Bridgeport public school, but those that are in the detention to have this opportunity. And to Mr. Traver's point, I know we have students from all over in there. So we should maybe try to take a look at where we can get support from the other areas, because those kids are not all Bridgeport students, but they're in our Bridgeport facility. See if we can figure out how we can support each other, as far as the kids. I don't know if it's possible, but food for thought. Want to put it out there.
And through the whole for clarity, I think that's what in the transition and understanding exactly how those tuition funds are used. That's what we've been working out. And as we got those clarities from, and I think we're misinterpreting the state. This is not the commissioner state. This is the juvenile division of the state that's provided that guidance to us. So I don't want that to be mixed up, because I think there was some cross pollinating there, but it's the state juvenile department that has and gave that clarity to us. And as we work through it, I mean, we were just making decisions because we had to cut $32 million, guys. And so as we got clarity, we provided that clarity and we just did what we needed to do internally. So again, I'll take ownership of that. I mean, it was all kind of new for us and new for me and for the team as well. So we were juggling, y'all. I mean, so again, I'll take ownership of it, but we'll work through it. We'll get the clarity, and we'll ask, for a little bit more direction as we move forward. But I know we have a few others that the board considered the same thing. We postponed a little bit in order to kind of keep them there. But we'll bring it back. We'll make sure we'll get ahead of it. We'll go from there as well.
Mr. Traver.
I do understand the difference between the two. Having worked with the juvenile court, as I said, 50+ years ago, but it's all part of the state government, which is all under the governor. So that's who I was referring to. I would like to see, I did not realize that thank you, Faith. I would like to see at some point just have it, intellectual. Let's see what because it hadn't occurred to me that we were getting reimbursed by the other districts. It would be worth us looking at to see how the cost is shared, because that's a legitimate thing to look at. And I do, in the time that I visited there, the assistant principal that is assigned to that facility is very helpful. So I want to support that, the presence of that position in that facility, way beyond whatever I saw 50 years ago in the facility in New Haven. So it is absolutely essential for the children that are there.
Other questions?
Just a follow-up question based on something Dr. we just mentioned twice. Said you got a few more. Those a few more positions you're going to bring for a reverse school board vote in the past.
If I'm thinking correctly, there was a couple of things that we had postponed, but maybe it was April.
Oregon. I think it was 4 positions that were deferred or
deferred to a certain date.
Yeah.
So we're going to be seeking to essentially restore those positions to full-time and
The board has the decision or the opportunity to decide on what you want based on our current reality.
oh, yeah, I'm
So,
aware.
yes.
I just want to know what's coming. Are we going to be potentially adding those positions to the deficit? And if so, the question remains, and of course, I want everybody on this board to remain, consider, is going to be a corresponding cut somewhere else. Up and down administrative levels, holding them sacrosanct, those cuts will be in the classroom. But there's nowhere else to go. We've got $37 million to cut. Not be adding to that burden that we have and the destruction on our school systems. We're already at the bottom.
And just maybe, yeah, those aren't necessarily the case, as we learned last year with unemployment. We have to look at how the cash flow goes. So we'll look at it, we cross that bridge.
Hopefully. Sooner than the end of the month, okay? Got it? All right. Is there a motion?
I would move to defer the layoff of the administrator of the juvenile detention center.
Is there a second?
Second.
See no further debate, all in favor?
Roll
say
call,
aye.
please.
We're gonna roll call, Ms. Estimate Ramirez.
Um, first, Mr. Benahan Grajales.
She's not here today.
Yep. Mr. Woodson,
Yes.
okay. Ms. Perez,
Yes.
Mr. Sokolovic,
No explanation being that, it's gonna add to our deficit and we're gonna have to make a corresponding cut somewhere else. And we as a board are gonna have to make decisions and stick to them at some point.
Miss Burks Jennings,
She's abstaining.
Mr. Daniels,
Yes.
I vote yes. Mr. Traber,
Yes.
Mr. Medina,
No, with an explanation, sure we can figure this out with our staff, in my opinion. I think there was a strategy before. And I think I want to support that strategy, whatever it was. It wasn't brought up today and I wasn't going to question it. But something had to be up as a plan. So I know it's passing, so I just want to make sure everybody understands why. Thank you.
mhm.
Thank you. So that passes with 5-2-1. 5 yes, 2 no, 1 exception. Thank you. I'll just, moving on, hey guys, we're probably gonna get this right, I promise. The approval of the 2026 regular board meeting calendar as revised. So in your portal, the change that we made obviously last week was to put it in the right year. But then after we passed that, I realized that the second March date was actually the wrong date. It was actually supposed to be March 23rd because we meet every second and fourth weeks. So originally it was March 30th, which was the 5th week. So that's the only additional change on this. Is there any other? Go ahead, Mr. Chamber.
I have a question.
Yeah,
We did modify that March date.
we did. So
You said we only made one change. We made two changes.
yeah, we modified it from March 29th to March 30th.
Yes,
But after we approved it, I realized that was the fifth.
that was
A
wrong.
fifth Monday.
Okay,
So we had to go back and make it the fourth Monday.
okay. I got
I double checked everything else. I'm almost 100% sure we're good.
Does Ms. Estromero Jimenez say we're good?
Ms. Estimate Ramirez looked at it, Danielle looked at it, we had 3 eyes this time on it, so. I think we're all set. So we're just, I'm just taking a motion to approve the revised calendar.
So move.
Moved by Mr. Medina,
Second.
second by Mr. Traber, or both at the same time. Any further discussion on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. That one passes as well. All right, next is just not just big stuff. Just a little budget workshop. We're gonna look at the budget calendar process. And I know we have public works here, Avery, but, Dr. Avery's gonna start and then.
Good afternoon, everybody. I think this is a great opportunity. We're starting our budget workshop this evening with an overview from Public Works. They are the external agency that is supporting this work on behalf of the state of Connecticut. And so there I have Dr. Joanne Cox and Betty Russell online that will also start the presentation off, and I'll turn it over to you ladies.
And everything can be found in your portal, guys, on the commission.
Good evening, Dr. Avery, board and staff. I hope you can hear and see me. I think the camera is on. As you know, CSDE has hired Public Works LLC to provide the resources needed to assist the district staff in successfully implementing the audit recommendations. The budget process should have been started back in October, and there has to be a sense of urgency to complete this budget process. I'm going to turn the conversation over to my colleague, Betty Russell, to discuss in a little more detail the budget process that we hope to follow. Betty, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, I saw someone waving in the background. Was there a problem?
Yeah, we couldn't see your colleague. We can see and hear
Oh.
you.
Okay, very good.
I guess someone has turned off my camera because I am clicking on the camera and it is not allowing me to put it on, and I don't know why. It was working earlier today.
Not a problem. It's on your
I
side.
can hear you.
We're gonna hear you, though. You heard you very well, so you're good. No worries about the picture.
Thank you.
Okay, well, my name is Betty Russell, and I have been assigned to work on the budget portion of this. And when we came before the board before, I told you that our plan was to bring you documents outlining processes and procedures. And tonight we have brought forward a planning guide, which was prepared for the principals and has been distributed. It is a work in progress, and even as late as this afternoon, we found some typos that we had to correct. So I believe a new copy of the manual is actually in your portal. In the forensic audit, there are 34 recommendations, and 15 of those recommendations are involving the budget creation, and budget monitoring processes. And this manual that is before you is attempting to answer many of those 15 items. The budget creation process, recommendation 1 is develop a budget process that includes collaboration with district leadership and the community, develop the budget at the account level, and control overspending during the year, include educational factors in the campus allocations, include capital improvements, maintenance needs, and annual budget process, include department heads in budget building process, use the factors to determine campus level allocations, use other factors to determine campus level allocations, continue to have grants department budget the grant separately, and keep grant revenues and grant fund revenues separated, and then budget and operational categories with more specificity. And as we go through this document, I'm going to point out some specific elements of this manual that address some of those concerns. And if you have the budget manual in front of you, if you look at the very beginning, once you get past the introduction of names and people that are involved in the
Sorry,
process.
Betty?
Yeah.
Hey, Betty, is there a way that you can share your screen, the documents on your screen, or no?
Some of us have access to it, but some of the people in the room don't.
Is there
I
really
would be
that?
glad to. I'm not sure I know how.
Mm.
Let me see where the share button is.
And maybe on the top right.
Right.
On the top of your teams.
There it is, share. So I want to choose what I want to share.
Yeah, you just choose the window with the presentation.
Can you see that?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. This is the table of contents. And the first thing that we felt was very important, and there seemed to be a great deal of misunderstanding about the rules, guidelines, purposes of the budget creation process. So we started this manual with a purpose statement as shown. And then here are the superintendent goals, and everything as we are working through the budget, these goals are of primary importance. And then state, city, and BOE board policies contain guidelines. The statutes require that each BOE prepare an itemized cost estimate, and that budget is itemized for the year. It must have broad categories, include at least salaries, fringe benefits, utilities, supplies, and all of that. And within 10 days after receiving the proposed budget, the Board of Finance or other applicable authority must make spending recommendations. That is state law. Then your city charter has its own guidelines. And so the city has prepared, according to its guidelines, its own budget calendar. And each of the departments, which the Board of Education is one of the many departments, has to follow these guidelines. And as you can see in this section of the budget, of the charter, there are dates not later than the second Tuesday in May, not, the first Tuesday in February, et cetera, et cetera. So all of this is spelled out in broad terms, and then from that, the city creates its own budget calendar, distributes it to the departments, and then the departments are required to comply with that. The Bridgeport School Board policies contain a good bit of information on what the school board expects the administration to do. And the board has a broad amount of responsibility in all of this, and controlling and financial management, etc. And it goes on under the operations. Here is a real important piece of this. The superintendent shall make expenditures and commitments in accordance with harmony with the budget. The superintendent shall be responsible for the preparation and implementation of the annual school budget adopted by the Board of Education. And in excerpts from the budget planning policy 3110, the superintendent establishes and recommends a budget to the Board of Education. The Board of Education then has the right and responsibility to go through that superintendent recommended budget and make modifications as you see fit. And the adoption of the budget, there shall be at least one budget workshop. There will be groups, community groups, and large involvement of representation of the certified and non-certified staff and the administrative staff in the development of the process, etc. So as you can see, the annual budget calendar shall be developed and distributed in October of each year. And Joanne mentioned this, that we're getting a late start. So a lot of this timeline that you're going to be looking at is compressed. And what to the best of our ability we have done is try to document a process that is doable in the timeline provided. And on page 5 of your document is the annual budget calendar that is proposed. Some of these pieces have already occurred. The capital improvement request form was sent to principals, and that is a new thing. That capital improvement request form was sent to the principals. They were asked to send it back to Mr. Garcia and his team, and they were able to take a look at that, and they are now in the process of building a capital improvement budget. And what's really important about that is that it is involving a much larger group of people, and in addition, their organization has produced a facilities master plan, which is the first in a very long time. I don't believe that one has been produced in the last decade at least. And so we have actual verifiable information from a third-party consultant that has an assessment of your facility and an estimate of what it will cost to address all of these needs. And so what Mr. Garcia and his team are looking at is trying to compile all of that information. And we understand that the city has said, we will pay this much. But for this year, with this facilities master plan in place, it is critically important that the city understand the magnitude of need that is out there as identified in this 5-year facility master plan. And so in order to address what the city wants and what we believe they need to see, which is the truth of what the facilities, what condition the facilities are currently in, the idea is that we're working together to try to document what the real needs might be. Now, they may choose not to address them, or they may say there's a different way to address them. And they may still say that's all we can give you. But we believe that they need to see the breadth of the need. And so if you look down the budget calendar, you'll see that the 5-year capital improvement plan will be submitted to you on or about December 23rd. And then there will be a special full board meeting here on January 5th to go through that 5-year capital budget. And then on January 9th, you submit your 5-year capital budget to the city. What you submit and what you are given and what you submit to the city, that's your choice. You are the board and you make that final decision. But this information is being compiled for you, and it is far more comprehensive than I believe anything that has been submitted in the past. And I wanted to let you know that this is specifically addressing that forensic audit recommendation having to do with capital improvement planning. So now, going back to what we're doing with this manual, the superintendent's cabinet on December 3rd, they went through a plethora of documents that had been gathered and analyzed. They looked at enrollment projections. They looked at staffing information for each and every campus and department, and the funding source for all of the staff. And then they kicked off this process with the principals and the department heads, announcing to them what the process looked like. And now the entire team of cabinet, et cetera, are meeting with individual principals to go through their budget and allowing them the opportunity to look at the budget allocation model, which we'll get to in just a second, and to look at their current staffing levels as compared to what the allocation models show, et cetera. And so these meetings are occurring and will continue until the winter break on the 19th. Is that correct? And at that time, all of the principals will have been met with individually. During the course of that, the principals were also given instructions for how to get into Munis, view their budget, etc. That also addresses one of the recommendations in the forensic audit, that the principals and the department heads need to have access to their budgets so that they can adequately monitor their budgets themselves. So this kickoff is happening. One of the next steps in the process is to do the same type of individual meeting and collaboration with the department heads throughout the district. And those department head meetings are hopefully going to be concluded by the end of this year, this calendar year. And then through the end of December and beginning in January, the department, the cabinets will be working with the superintendent to develop an operating budget. And that is going to be a fairly intense process. On January the 9th, as I stated, you're submitting the 5-year capital budget. January 1st through 15th, there are going to be a series of superintendent BOE community forums. Here, January 9th, that was one of the dates. It was set for a Saturday, and I believe it's now on a Friday, as it should be. These community forums are an opportunity for people to give their input and opinion on what they believe should be priorities and areas of need. At a special full board meeting on January the 15th, that's a Monday, the superintendent and CFO will present the superintendent's budget to the board for review. The finance committee will then have an opportunity to review the budget and make recommendations and modifications as they see fit. In a regular board meeting on January 26th is the date that, and I would encourage you to set this meeting aside for no other purpose than the review of the budget. And that is then the precursor to February 7th is the deadline for the Board of Education to submit the operating budget to the mayor and OPM. Then the mayor is on a timeline to submit the capital budget to the city council and then to submit the general fund budget to the city council in March. So during that period, they will be looking at your budget and making recommendations and modifications potentially. On June 16th, the city council sets the mill rate. And at that point, there are other dates and timelines that go on through the end of the summer. However, at that point, the budget is in stone. And so you have the budget in your hands starting with the January 15th presentation. It goes to the, and then the city takes it from there. Are there any questions about any of these dates? These are following city guidelines, city calendar, and all of the various statutes and ordinances that are out there on the budget. Questions?
I do want to clarify the January 12th forum will be before the regularly scheduled board meeting. So we'll figure out the appropriate time for that. But people like that was a question somebody had.
This is the community forum, but that date, the January 12th date was a typo. It is Monday, January the 15th. So the community forum would be on Friday.
15th is a Thursday.
That's a Thursday. So that's another, that's something I was gonna bring up, but I was gonna wait for people to ask questions first because we don't have a meeting on Thursdays usually. So
It's gonna be special meeting.
that it says a special full board meeting. But I think that's something that the board we'll have to make sure we have a forum. So we'll, I'll ask other questions first, and then we'll go back to that one. So Mr. Holiday?
Yeah, to that point, probably ready?
Yeah. Go ahead.
And yeah, to that point, it's probably a simple fix for that. The word on or before or about.
Yeah.
So you give us a little wiggle room on that because we need to stay focused.
Yeah.
Okay. I've
I
got,
don't-
sorry.
Yeah, we could just put it on or before the 15th. I just want to make sure the board, can in consensus be available that day. So,
Yeah.
but.
And as you can see, this is a really tight timeline between
Uh-huh.
there and the February 7th that you have to submit it to the
Yeah.
mayor. So it's when we rewrite this for next year, which we will do, we're going to start this process in September.
Yeah.
With the calendar being adopted in October, and that is going to give us a lot more wiggle room. This year, we don't have any wiggle room. So it's difficult. It's going to be difficult, and everybody's, going to have to be on their best, to get this out the door in the time frame that's shown.
Mrs. Collins have some questions?
Yeah, I got a couple. Well, maybe I should run through them all first. Yeah, I got several things. I'm just curious is if you've seen our previous timeline, because prior to 2022, we did have a timeline that began in October and went through a lot of the series of these steps. In fact, this timeline is actually excluding some steps. I do not see budget gap proposals on here. I think we need a couple more community forums on here, because going from January 12th, January 9th and 12th, we're soliciting input, but we have no community forums to present the budget to the community and have them ask questions about the budget when it gets closer to the time for the city of Bridgeport and the state of Connecticut, which is also very, very responsible for our budget and on the funding. In fact, we have $450 million in the hole due to a lack of inflationary adjustments since 2013. So let's be clear, it's not only a city responsibility to fund the capital budget and the other budgets, it's also the state of Connecticut. So I think it's important to take a look at what we already had, because there's some things that are being left out. I mean,
What
For example-
we did when we were building this calendar is we jointly prepared, it's probably an 8-page document, give or take, that is a more comprehensive timeline with all the parts and pieces in between. And that it does have the gap analysis. It does have those other pieces. What we worked with the cabinet on is what were the key functions that were important to lay out for the community, and the due dates. If you look at the city budget calendar, it has even fewer dates, and yet there are lots of intermediate steps all along the way. So we do have that much larger, more detailed budget timeline, which actually goes all the way through August, I believe.
Can I ask you? I think one of the things that Mr. Sakalovic was saying was that in the past, so I like the forums that we solicit feedback from the community, but in the past, we've also had forums in which the board presents the actual budget that was sent to the city so that the community is aware. I think that's what you're getting at. And it does look like there might be some time after we do submit it to the city in February where we could probably add a couple forums in there so that we really involve in the community and they know what's on the line, should the city not approve the budget. So I think, maybe we were Dr. Avery on getting a couple of dates of forums in there in that month.
I definitely think that there's room for additional steps in here as y'all see fit.
Yeah, and Betty, I know you mentioned, but I want to make sure the board is clear that we do have an internal budget development calendar that has tons of different steps, like the steps you're talking about, that's on that. But this is a public facing calendar where you want to put all those things out there for the world to see, because we have work that we have to do behind the scenes. Part of that is the gap analysis. If we're gonna cut, $10 or $30 million, we have to figure out and give the board a plan of what we're going to cut. So all those steps are in the plan, the internal one that we're working from, my staff and I. And I can actually, once we get it finalized, Betty, we can also share that with the board as well, so that we can make sure that you guys
I
are
think that's a
following
good
us.
idea.
So
Yeah.
we can definitely do that.
So Mr. Sakalovic, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, so one of the major things was the budget gap, and since we are under such a timeline, I just want to point out that in the normal course of business, in December, January, we pretty much got a good idea of where things are gonna be landing. And we prepare the worst case scenarios with the initial budget gap plan, because what I don't want happening is to go through this, and what has happened before, when the state has made suggestions, that we adopted them as a board, as a mindset that, oh, we gotta file this, we cannot amend, we cannot do anything outside of what was presented us by the state. So I want to make sure the board retains its authority to approve the budget, retains its authority to amend the budget, retains its authority to have its own calendar and add processes and procedures, and to do the due diligence, because the point of the exercise and one of the main things that the auditors pointed out was the board is not hands-on enough with the budget. And that's what I'm making sure that does not get lost in this conversation. I won't probably be on record, it may be being done already, but I'm not thinking.
I think you're right on point. I think you're right on
Say the
point
same
with
thing.
that.
This is part of, guys, we're a team. We have to make sure that we're part of a team. It's not the board by yourself. It's not the superintendent by himself. It's a team of capable individuals in this room that is willing and able to rally the troops and let's get it done together. This is a very, very intense process. And you don't understand how intense Just the last 2 weeks that my staff has been under trying to get, we've met with almost 39 principals, guys, individually. We're stopping everything that we're doing, trying to make sure, because the principals need to be involved in this budget process. We haven't done that in the past couple of years. The district has just fed principals budgets and said, this is what you're going to do. We're trying to do it differently, and it takes a lot of time. We're in a small crunch time frame, and so again, we're going to start in August next year. We're going to have all this worked out. Guys, this is a beautiful piece of document that they've helped us create. This will keep us honest. And everything that we do, it steps us through making sure we're going to hold ourselves accountable, and this community is going to be able to hold us, me, you, everybody accountable for letting them know transparent wise what the dollars are being spent on. And it's detailed. It's a breath of fresh air because this is what should have been done 20 years ago. And we should have been tweaking it every year to kind of modify it, but we didn't have that, but now we do. And it's a good piece of work. I'm excited about it. I think once all said and done, you guys are going to be thrilled and say, and again, you have the number one authority because that's part of your roles as a board member, right? Is to make sure you have a solid budget that's going to help this district move forward. And we're setting the process right now, so it's going to be a good thing. And ask the questions, poke the holes, do what you got to do. It's all good. We understand that. It's a work in progress.
The next section, I think, is one of the most
We have a few more
exciting
questions.
pieces. Oh, I'm sorry.
We have a few more questions. Mr. Chamber?
You have page 4,
Yes.
excerpts from 3110, planning, second paragraph. In an effort to make the budget a comprehensive reflection of the financial needs of the school system, recruited in a special committee will be representatives of the community, students, certified, non-certified staff, and the administrative staff in the budget process. Their names will be submitted to the Board of Ed. The procedure for the involvement of these representatives shall be developed by the superintendent of schools and implemented by the superintendent's office with notification to the Board of Ed selected participants in this process. That's not even quite good grammar, but when is this happening? Change survey?
I believe that what our read on this, and you can help us with this, is that in these community forums, there will be invited members to this, so that there is a broad representation. Now, clearly, at the moment, we have been working very hard with the principals, et cetera, to get initial information. The principals then are being asked to go back to their individual campus leadership teams, and I think they call them by different names. Dr. Avery, you may have to help me with this, but some have PAC, some have
ETSOs.
governance councils,
Later on the document.
yeah,
The school
whatever.
government.
But
Get to that.
they are taking
It's not the
their
same.
budget back. Go ahead.
Okay, I was looking at this here as
As a broader,
part
a
of your
broader
plan.
group.
And so if you're just quoting indiscriminately from this, from policy, you're folding it in through the school governance councils. I get that. This is not then,
It's the worst thing we have to do with it. So,
okay.
for the clarity, I read that today too. I was like,
Reading it, and I'm going, I don't like the English. I don't even understand where this fits in when I look at the timeline.
we will
I
modify.
don't see where it fits in. I'm trying to follow where it's gonna happen. I'm not opposed to the idea. I like the idea, but I don't see it anywhere in the timeline. As being built in. I did read the part about the school governance councils. I used to be the chair of a school governance council. I know that they don't happen very well. They don't happen particularly functionally. And when I read that part in the timeline, I was going to get to that question later on when we get there. I have that question in my comments about how quickly you only leave a couple of days And anyone that's been in a building administration knows school governance council meetings don't happen that quickly or efficiently. So being able to schedule one and make it happen doesn't happen throughout the district that efficiently. So I'm concerned about it being relied on as the sole mechanism for making this happen.
In
So-
some of the detailed timeline information, I envisioned it being more at the larger group level during these BOE community forums. Now, I defer to
Ones that
Dr.
we're having
Avery
now.
on this, but in the more detailed timeline, I believe that there was discussion, you know, this whole business, January 1st through 15th, superintendent and BOE seek input. That's where I saw this happening. The mechanism for it, this is a work in progress. The mechanism for it, we need to work out, because how did it happen last year or the year before or the year before that? I don't know. I couldn't find anybody that could tell me that. And this policy has been in place since
Pardon me?
In the
forever.
past.
In the past.
Okay, well, the last couple of years, that's been non-issue, but in the past, there wasn't necessarily a mechanism for input on developing the proposal, but there was a mechanism for community forums after the proposal was developed when so there was some variance on getting involvement on developing proposals with staff and or the the school community. And I'll leave that general as whether that's school governance council, staff, et cetera, and who was the superintendent at the time. But then there was community involvement, what Mr. Sokolovic was referring to. There's input for developing a proposal, and then there's input for getting people involved for advocacy purposes. And those are two different, what Mr. Sokolovic, so.
And I think to that point, like Betty said earlier, this is a crunch timeline. So next year, hopefully we get this in December. Other districts around us are doing it already. I've done it. I've done it in December, some maybe September, not September, but like earlier this school year, where they're seeking that input for the next year already. There's quite a few districts that do that. We haven't. So I do like the idea that next year we'll have a lot earlier, I'm assuming, than 3 days before we present to the
Yeah,
board.
I just didn't find why these excerpts were being laid out here as if they were, because the next one on this same page, which says adoption of the budget, it'll be compiled and submitted. And then it says, before taking action, the board shall hold at least one budget workshop. I didn't even know what that was referring to. And then it says, it shall be examined, altered if necessary, and approve the school budget, which shall then be submitted. I didn't even understand that. So I was going to ask what that meant. So.
What is the,
I would like, can I inject here? I think
go ahead,
there
Becky.
is, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I would like to inject here that I don't think policy as it is written today is as clear as it needs to be. And it's a fairly old policy. It does what it does, and that's good. But I think what we need is more clarity on what is expected and how you as a board want to see this process go in the future. We're in survival mode, and we're going to get through this one way or the other, I suppose. But this is your opportunity to say, that worked, that didn't work, let's do something different. And we're just laying it out here for you in the spirit of transparency, to give you an opportunity to ask just exactly those kinds of questions. And I love it. I love the fact that you're questioning it.
Betty, I completely understand. We've been in survival mode for about 35 or more years. So you're preaching to the choir here. But I just didn't understand why these excerpts were laid in here. So they confused me. I'm happy to
I'm sure
understand
they
now
did.
what you're telling me. And and let you move on to the rest of it, but in reading them, why they were included was confusing to me. So I'm happy to turn the meeting back over to you, Madam Chair. And
Before we move on, is there anything else on this calendar? Any questions on this before we move on? Seeing no, you can continue the presentation.
Okay, as I said, I think the most exciting part of this is this budget allocation module that has been compiled. I believe that this model shows how and gives order to the manner in which staff are assigned at campuses. And one of the forensic audit pieces was in regard to making sure that the budgets were developed not just on the number of students, but the needs of students. And I believe when you read through this, and there's a lot of information on these couple of pages, you will see that a standardized allocation model has been developed and actually has been in use by the district for a number of years. I don't know that it was published in this way, and the enrollment projections that PJ and his team put together in order to build the insides of this gigantic Excel spreadsheet that does all of this allocation, the enrollment projections that he did, he broke it down not only by grade level in school, but by special needs and by grant types and so on and so forth. And I specifically asked the superintendent to include in your packet of information one sheet. It's a sample from a staffing chart that we were using and giving out to each of the principals. But if you look at that staffing chart, it has a source, funding source. And you'll see that a goodly number of the special needs positions are grant funded. So you are approving an operating budget, but in addition to that operating budget are grant monies that are also funding positions that are very specifically targeted at those students with special needs or special student populations at risk, IDEA for special education, title money for at-risk kids, career and technology education, etc. That's grant funded, not necessarily pulled into the operating budget. And I really wanted to emphasize that because there was concern throughout the forensic audit about special needs and really, doing something other than just allocating money according to the number of kids in a grade level. This clearly shows that the district has given a great deal of thought to those kids that have special needs and is allocating accordingly. But this is not the end of the story, because in addition, you have these grant funds that are supplementing what is in the operating budget. The operating budget, in most cases, not in every case, but in most cases, funds basic education. It's the grants that are adding, supplementing the basic education with those special programs. And so we, for this purpose, purposely used and showed the funding source for each position so that the principals and the department heads would be able to see their staff and understand this one is basic, this one is supplemental, and this is how we are addressing the needs of the students. I am so excited about this. I really believe This is a real win-win for everybody. Questions about this?
Yes, we have a few questions. I do want to say that, when I saw this model, I was really impressed by the work. I guess we can, PJ, I guess this is your team who did this. Everybody, but this spreadsheet is amazing. You know, it was really great, and just another conversation from this time, but to see like, you know, what the staffing model should look like versus what we have. If it, you know, we had unlimited resources, right? But I'll let Mrs. Cullen answer, ask some questions.
Not clarifying. I think it's important that, you know, I think one of the things that Betty kind of pushed us towards is making sure that we make this public to the board and to the community. Because we wanted people to understand that we just don't randomly do things. There's a system of being able to kind of keep the budget at a manageable, you know, amount in order to kind of accommodate the different levels of school. So when you look at the school with 500 students in it, you get this many staff. You have schools that's less than 200 kids right now, and you get this many kids, this many staff members. And so it's important for you to, as a board member, to kind of see and learn that. Because most districts do it something similar. The allocations may be different based on the size that they can afford, whatever. But it's important for me to clarify that as well. So yes,
Mr. Collins?
Yeah, I'm gonna leave one of the last things you said, based on the size that they can afford. That brings me to, this is our current staffing allocations.
yes.
Yeah.
No, this is for next year.
No, I'm sorry, next year.
This is proposed allocations for next year. Is that based on the prayerful budget or the reality budget where we might be facing, based on past history? Let's say we've gotten as much as $7 to $10 million, so figuring we need 37 based on $20 million going up the smoke. Or is that based on the current year budget with no cuts?
This is based on the number of students that are projected to be in this district for next year, sir. That's how it's actually, you know, programmed. And what you do is as we met with individual principals based on the allocation, you know, this is where you're going to be if the budget is passed. Okay. Now what happens if the budget isn't passed? We have to go back to the allocations and say, due to the fact that we're not going to be able to do this. So we would have to adjust that based on the approved budget by the board.
I'm gonna try to ask this question again, because the board approves the spending of the budget. We don't approve how much money we got. This model is based on how many dollars? How many dollars
This
does this
model, this model is based on educational need. And
how much will it cost to
and-
satisfy these educational needs?
That's what we're working
we will know that, at the
So we
end
don't-
of this.
This is not a budget like presentation, it's just a workshop on how we're gonna come up with the budget.
Well, right, we gotta come up with the budget. We're not coming up with budgets with what's best for our kids. We're coming up with budgets based on what we get. Nothing we're doing is,
We don't know yet, so.
We're looking at the.
I mean, this has nothing, this says nothing about.
Point of information here.
Mr. Chairman?
This is a budget. If we had all the money we want.
We had one,
This is not the reality yet. This is if we get what we want, but
what we need.
does that clarify here?
Understood. So
Okay, so
what
that's,
do we need to make this a reality? What do we need to make this a reality?
We're still
I-
we're gonna have the forums with this.
So we got numbers, we got positions all in there. All placed in it. We know the cost of these things already. I'm just saying that, okay, because that brings up one of the main things in here. In this document, there's nowhere that says, it says subject to this, it's wrong, and it says subject to this and that, but then Not in one place does it say subject to available funding. Because that's what it all boils down to is.
This is what the state has asked us to do.
And we're doing. And again,
So the state has-
again, the state has not taken us over, so we are in charge of the budget. We are in charge of the allocations, yes, presenting it. But if the state is asking us to do, I'm going to ask the state, fund it. And we will do it. But if the state does not fund it, they are leaving us in a position to exercise our power and authority under state statute to amend this, to change it, to decimate it, to go. And I don't even think this is even close to the best allocation of a special social worker to student ratio. This is not even close to what should be. This is far from ideal. So this is not, I'm not saying the work isn't great. I'm just saying the numbers as they exist aren't great. The funding that we're going to get to possibly implement this is not great. And
This is what class sizes maxed out, if you see, if you looked at it.
so
So like,
yeah,
so yeah, there's still work to do. This is just the beginning steps to it,
right.
right? We don't have the budget yet. That's coming in January. We solicit feedback from the community. We get the budgets from the principals. So
Something on
Don't say the final
it is a great word, it's a great document, it's great that it was put together. And it will also be great if the city and the state come together and fund every single thing we need to implement this.
we have another question, Mr. Medina.
I'm sorry, I don't know if it's in line with what Mr. Sokolovic is looking for, but I definitely would like to ask this question and have that information either now or later. Looking at the staff, position of what each campus would look like as far as staff and to run the schools. This is for next year. Do you guys, can somebody with this data get us a number of what would it cost to fulfill this staff, kind of like best case scenario? You know, because I see this as a wish list, which I like it. Don't get me wrong, but how much would it take to have those staffing according to what you're recommending, according to what the commissioner work assigned to you guys? If this is what the platform they would like to see, or what you recommend each campus to look like, what would it take financially to hold these numbers if we needed to? Can you guys get that for us? Either you guys or I don't know if.
I think that's what Mr. Sokolovic just asked.
Yeah, but that's what I'm
Yeah,
asking.
yeah.
If that was.
So that's coming out when the budget comes out. This is just the preliminary. This is just,
It's coming when the budget comes out.
yeah, this is not the budget yet. This is just a calendar work.
I hear when the budget comes out, this is what it's going to be, because we already know where, you know, those $37 million just to keep the status quo that we have this year, next year. Now we're looking at these staff kind of like adding and moving around. I don't have a hard copy right now, I will, but I just wanted to know, when would you guys be coming up with those figures?
If we're following that,
January the 15th.
following the timeline.
That's what she answered, January 15th.
Yeah, so
She just
Yes,
answered, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
She just answered 2026. Thank you, madam.
January the 15th.
Madam Chair, the public works is not the one coming up with the numbers. The superintendent and I and the team, after having meetings with all the principals
And directors.
in guidance as to what the state wants, the state instructed us, talk to the principals, see what they need to run their schools efficiently. That's what we're doing, and that's part of what this model is all about. One thing I can guarantee you, it's gonna cost a lot more, a little more than your current base, that I can tell you. Until we put all the chips together. It's not something you just do a magic wing and get the number. That doesn't work that way. You gotta go into each individual's cases, special education children, depending on their degree, depending on their severity. You might have to tweak a little thing, few things here and there. So it's all variable depending on the school. And to be very honest with you, depending on the area or zoning of the school, you might have to assign a little more counselors and psychologists to a particular school in order to meet things. So it's not a one size fits all.
Sure. Let me make it clear again. The process that we're going through is a process that this district should have been using years ago. It's a very tedious process, guys. And yes, we have not, we together collectively, my team that's in the mix of doing this right now, we've never done it for this district. So yes, it's different. It's different for you guys that's been on the board for a while, that have never really been exposed to the inner workings of the budget development side of it, and it is strange for you. Just like previous years, they did the same thing, but they did it just in a controlled manner, and they dictated what everybody was going to get. The state, just like most schools in the state of Connecticut, has a process that they're involving everyone. Again, I think at the end, Mr. Medina and Mrs. Kovic, you're going to see that there's going to be an ask of the superintendent for the budget. You guys will say, well, that's $20 million more than it was last year. We can't afford that. You got to go back and cut. That's the process. It's different, and we're on a very small timeline to get it done. But as we build the ship, we're not going to and you guys have the authority to cut, to say, that's not the appropriate budget. We don't have enough funding from state of government, the federal dollars, to be able to run that budget. You got to go back and do more cuts to the budget. And we'll go back, and there's a process that we're building to be able to look at each individual campuses, where we were. We can look back at what they started with last year, and then what the new budget proposal for next year is, and say, we don't have those funds. You're going to have to go back and cut additional, clerical, additional, or we got to go back and look at cutting administration again. So that whole process is part of this. And we will be very diligent in making sure that everybody that is going to be in the process is going to add value to that process, including the board. I think you guys are going to be very instrumental, like you said, Mr. Sokolovich. Part of the audit said the board had to be a little bit more hands-on to the process. We're gonna allow you to be a little bit more hands-on, but we have to work through the process ourselves to give you that. And then you're able to go back and say, that kind of thing. So that's where we are with it.
Mr. Medina, and then
Thank you.
Mr. Woodson.
Yeah, I just want to make sure everybody understands why I ask my questions, and there's always a method to if some people want to, even with our new colleagues on the board, because I need a number that when I'm advocating out there, when I'm saying this is our perfect, when I sit down at the table and see each school and what is the best case scenario for each school as far as staffing, funding, and all that stuff, or as a district as a whole, that I can go and advocate for these numbers. And that's why I ask these questions specifically. I want to make sure everybody understands me as why I want some information, is because then I can go out there to the state. I can go out there to the wherever I go and speak about numbers and organizations that back us up to know this is our perfect case scenario. We're looking at 2025, 2026. We know what we have to be able to maintain this next year. We already know it's about $37 million, but yet we're still not meeting the needs of our students, of our campuses, of our leaders in each campus, and those teachers that are there. They need help. One of the things, especially that I spoke with our superintendent, was, coaches. We need more coaches inside to be able to support these kids, to be able to get them up to par. And it's something that all the other districts have enough funds for. So I need numbers. I need some of the information that when I go out and speak, I have those tools. So I'm just trying to help you guys, help me, help you guys when I go out there and advocate. So that's why you hear these questions, is because I want to know that way I can go out there and speak up. Because I want, when I sit down at the table with people and they tell me, draw a school, what is it, perfect school looks like? And when I drew it, we always talked about the outside, because you're going to draw what's in the outside. I drew a school, I drew a playground, I drew trees, I drew nice neighborhood. But then they say, what is inside? Well, that's what we got to break into and see, what do we need inside? You know, that's what keeps me up at night. That I know that other districts that have the tools to be able to help those kids get back on track, be part of their peers, don't feel that shame to say that they can't do certain things in their classrooms, or even, for example, that I got, you know, a class that's being emptied because there's no teacher, there's no substitute. Now those students are being moved to other classrooms, putting more pressure on our staff. So this is what keeps me up. And that's why I ask these questions. So if anybody ever has a doubt of why I'm asking these questions, please come and see me. Because that's what keeps me up. I don't know what keeps you guys up, but that's what keeps me up at night. Share.
Mr. Woodson?
First of all, this is not the first time that we've talked about budgets and timelines and stuff like that, and asking for money from the state. And I just, I feel like I'm beating a dead horse, but we, in order for us to ask the state for money, we need to be more efficient with our funds. Now, if we have old buildings, 100 years old, if we have buildings that are not more than 70% filled, if we have classes that don't have more than 17 kids or 20 or 22 kids in them, we're not being efficient with our money. We cannot ask the state for money. I don't know what we don't understand about that, but this, we and I hate to say it like this, but we're trying. It's like we're trying to run a business. We're not running a thrift shop. We're running a business. We have to be efficient with our money. That's why we go to school. We how do we all say that we go to school, that we all been to school? We're trying to fix, the school system, and we're not even smart enough to be efficient with our money. We gotta be better. This lady is telling us we need to start listening to the superintendent, take his budget, do what we can't do, let him do their job. Let the administration do their job. Let them come to us and let us decide if it's okay. But it's not really our decision to be in the budget room. That's what she's saying. Let them do their job, then come to us when the job is done. We only have a couple of weeks to get this done. These dates, these are not like made up dates. These are laws, she said. If I heard it correctly, this stuff goes by the charter. We don't have time to be going back and forth and deciding, what's we know what's important. We've been through this last year. We need to make the hard decisions right now. And we need to be there for Dr. Avery so he can make the tough decision. That he's not, walking on pins and needles trying to make us happy. We need to make him happy. We need to make him want to be here in Bridgeport. We keep fighting him and opposing everything that he's doing. He's not going to want to be here next year. Who's going to want to be here next year with a $40 million budget and a board that can't decide what's, who they trust and what's important? We need to start, making the important decisions, and time is now. Thank you.
Any further questions from board members? Mr. Traver?
I just want to make sure I understand what you're putting forth here. If I read this right, you still retain the kindergarten paras as we currently have them?
That is correct. Yes, that is correct.
We're not restoring libraries?
We went from where we currently are. Not yet. We were looking.
Yes or no?
We're looking at
I'm not
where we
arguing.
currently are. If that's something, again, that the board wants us to go, I can come back. I mean, I'm just talking about the process though. But I think that's where you guys will add value, because what's valuable to you and your constituents is what we want to make sure that we add to the budget.
I'm not trying to have that debate right now. I just want to make sure I understand what you're putting on the table right now. We will have the arguments about what we think is important to add or take away. And that would also become this partly the condition of what we end up getting financially. So I get where we'll be at on this. And there's no change in the current ratio of counselors or social workers or any of those positions, if I see it right.
No, there's not.
Okay.
We're still maintaining the same head count of counselors.
Yeah, I'm doing a quick scan just to see.
Yes, all four
what you have.
board.
And is there any significance to the green next to the kindergarten teachers? Okay, I'm just curious. I noticed they got a different color. You are? Yeah. I just was checking. If there was any significance, and that's just we made the change.
No,
Mid-year.
not that I can.
Okay. Just asking. Right, well, that's all the questions I have, Madam Chair.
Just
I would like to add one thing, from the discussions. The idea that this was a wish list of the ideal situation. If you look at these ratios, class size ratios, many of these class size ratios are taken out of the bargaining agreements and are already at a tight level. The beauty of this, number one, is it's transparent. Number two, it's equitable because it is based on formulas that take into account the needs of the students. And I think the cabinet debated on this long and hard. When PJ produced that projection model with all of the breakouts, with all of the individual special needs, the ELL, and all of the, categories of special education, et cetera, that really took it down to a new level. And the cabinet level and the people that are directly involved with delivering the curriculum were involved in analyzing these. What can we do at a minimum to build these schools and give them the kind of people that they need? Now, the principals took their spreadsheets that had all of their staffing on it, and if their population in grade 3 went down, but the population in grade 4 went up, and they had more ELL students, which is, by the way, true almost across the district, that if there were more of these and fewer of these, then we don't need this kind of teacher here. We need a different kind of teacher. And they were in the planning today. They were in the planning process of how am I going to reallocate my current staff? And that is so critical. And I don't believe they've had the opportunity to do that kind of thing. And so that's why I believe this is a beautiful thing that's been created. And it's laying out an equitable system. If you need to cut, instead of the way that the principals told me it was done last year, cut $1 million. Wherever you can get it, just cut $1 million. Well, that's not preserving equity. If $1 million needs to be cut, then these allocations need to be changed so that equitably everybody is affected in the same way, and that one campus decided to gut an entire program, whereas another campus gutted something else. In other words, equity is the big word I really want to emphasize here. And it's not a wish list. These class sizes do not indicate fluff. Does that help?
It does. Thank you.
And I'm glad to hear you thank you, but I'd just like to address something about what was just discussed. My initial thing was something else, but I'll get back to that. This has always been done in some way, shape, or form. Just to be clear, the district never had a flood, because this came up in audit, and it was one of the big glaring red flags that they weren't really paying attention to a certain area. They had conflated the $20 and $30 and $35 per pupil, and conflated that with the same amount of funding for each student, and that we needed to look at special education course and English language learners when making allocations, and that has always been done. Might be getting done a little better now through this work here and a little more efficiently, a little more transparently, but there was that work being done before. This is nothing new. We've always funded our special education students at a higher level. English language learning schools have always had more special education, more language arts, not language arts. If I'm misspeaking, somebody feel free to speak up. I won't get offended.
You
But
are
this is
right on
always-
target.
So this has always been going on. So this is just improving upon that process. I don't want anybody to think that we were shortchanging them, and equity is a new thing throughout this district, because we have been somewhat equitably funded, maybe not 100% perfectly. And I do agree with the equitable cuts. However, one thing I don't see in this presentation, now back to my original point, was going to be the budget deficits and the cuts that come are really, really very important. And one thing I haven't seen us do, Mr. Unquo will be more familiar with this process than everybody else. We don't have the directors come before us and explain the needs of their departments. What we have is the budget directors coming before us when we're ready to make cuts. And we ask them, Mr. Carafa, Mr. I'm telling everybody's fucking name, Mr. Gus.
Yes.
If I'm gonna ask you, let's pretend you're head of computers, because that's a good example. Computer guys, not you. The head of tech. If we cut your staff by 3, that'd be okay? I'll look at the superintendent. Okay, we'll manage. Because you're gonna have to. But what we don't hear is how it's gonna impact. What we don't hear is down the line, we're not gonna have enough people. If I ask, I'm gonna pick on Mr. Garcia now. If we ask, if we cut facilities, I've respectfully heard you say this a couple of times throughout the years, when we decimated your budget's one of the first ones that get hit all the time. We'll manage. But through 2014 to present, you've always said you could manage, and no. Our facilities have to have deferred maintenance and all this, and that's how you manage. The impacts of that need to be brought to us when we're making the decisions to make these cuts, so we can actually balance out the impact. Because everybody would say maybe facilities is not as important as this position. But if we're not maintaining our buildings up to a standard that's safe because of budget cuts, that'll weigh in maybe differently a little bit on somewhere else we might need to move. So I would definitely like more input from the directors, and even the finance director, if say, because we're looking for areas, because I'm not picking on any one department. If we go into finance and say we need to get rid of 2 or 3, we need to give some folks say, well, you can manage, but this is the consequences of me managing. I'm not going to be able to deliver it on time. I'm not going to be able to do this and that. And social workers, psychologists, we're going to have our students are going to be, some of them are going to be lost to us. We'll manage, but this is the consequences of us managing. And we need that information and the consequences before they hit, because you guys can see them come. Sometimes the board members cannot. And unless you guys are bringing that up, nobody's going to see the consequences of their decisions before they make them. They're going to be coming back later and say, oh my God, we cut the Paris. It was a horrible decision because it affects it. We basically all knew this, but it wasn't voiced.
Yeah.
Okay. I would definitely like to see more interaction between the board and the directors at, say, one of the budget meetings, initial budget meetings, but they lay out the budget for their departments that they do it on the city council. I'm sure they do it in other boards. I mean, this board doesn't meet very long on budgets, and has us since, say, maybe 2018. We were doing good up until COVID. COVID struck, a whole bunch of things happened, and then we never got back on track. Thank you.
Any more questions? Is there more to the presentation?
Just, instructions for the principals, and I think someone brought up the issue of the taking it to the councils, whatever they're called at the campus level. That is really huge. The staffing worksheets with the list of the current staff, that staffing sheet has a series of questions out to the side. Is this person going to stay? Are they planning to retire, etc.? Do you plan to move them? Because if they don't need a third grade teacher and, but they need a fourth grade teacher, is that person certified in both? This whole staffing worksheet is also a key instrument that the district wants to use, and I believe finance is the one in the hot seat for doing it. If those staffing lists are incorrect in any way, and there was some indication in the forensic audit and then discussions about that not all of the staff were in the right positions and, et cetera. This is an opportunity for us to do a cleanup on all of the staffing. And we're getting that feedback directly from the principals. Who's on your campus? What do they do? Are they going to stick around in 26, 27? And are you going to need to do some adjustments and movements in order to accommodate the changes in your student population in the coming year? So those things are enormous. Just changes in the way that the principal is being asked to look at how they're operating. And then, as was pointed out, the elementary and secondary allocations per student, every principal received not a budget, because in the budget of past years, it was a lump sum, but their actual expenditures for 24, 25, and year-to-date 26 were provided, broken out with these codes that are on the next page, the operating accounts. And it says, you spent this much on this and this much on that. And what are you thinking that you're going to need? And the principals are being asked to take this $30 or $35 per student and allocate it out to an actual account. And that way they can be held accountable for their budget, because they said, I'm going to spend this much on stipends. I'm going to spend this much on, whatever the other operating accounts were. Last year I spent $1,000. This year I'm planning to do something different, and forcing them into the idea and mindset of allocating it for themselves, not depending on finance or someone else to do it for them. But then that allows us to hold them accountable. Again, another one of the forensic audit recommendations that allows some reasoning for holding them accountable for staying within their budgets. Hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. The rest of it is real mechanical, but if you have any additional questions, I'd be happy to answer whatever I could.
Mr. Faber.
Yeah, on page 10, I had, this is where I had mentioned earlier that the school governance council timeline down in the bottom of the page is just a very tight timeline at this time of year. With the holidays coming up, getting a meeting together before Christmas or right after Christmas is going to be extraordinarily difficult, because you need to get the parents and the staff to have a meeting after school. And this is not a good time to call to get people to come to a meeting after school. With holiday parties and everything else going on, you pulling that off is going to be very difficult. So one, that's a logistical problem that the superintendent and the administrators are going to have. Two, what I just heard you say about the staffing worksheets, that's just, I don't see how you can do that, quite frankly. As the former head of the union for the teachers, nobody knows who's sticking around next year other than somebody who's really near retirement. Where you're guessing, are they going to stick around? But
Well,
a
it's a
large,
guess.
pardon me?
It's a guess.
No,
It's a
no, but
guess.
I'm
They
saying
haven't,
the
yeah.
largest factor that I can think that's going to affect whether they're sticking around is going to be the budget and what's happening with the budget next year. And how much money we get, how many cuts, how draconian the cuts are. And that's going to severely impact whether or not people decide to stay again. We have a certain percentage of our turnover, which we all know about, that every year that has to do with the people that seek greener pastures. It's just a given built into Bridgeport's budget that we lose a certain percentage every year to greener pastures. And then that has been exacerbated in recent years because of the severity of the cuts that have been required to be made in Bridgeport. And so that's really what's going to impact it. And we won't know that until later this spring. And so for an administrator, a building administrator to try and predict, they may have some intuitions about some people, but over the last few years, some of the people that I've seen leave have been shocking to me. People who have been here 15 to 25 years who just decide to hang it up, that I wouldn't have thought they would. So it's not, that's really going to be difficult.
May I respond to the first
Yes.
item, which is item 5, or the discussion about the councils. The principals were informed of the budget process December the 4th. The cabinet has been meeting with them, and the principals they've got their budget in hand, they've got their staffing charts in hand, and they can go back to that council right now. They don't have to wait until a final budget, and they can show what the allocations are showing. They can show them what they have to work with, and that they're trying to put it into some kind of form and format and allocate it to those account codes. They can take that preliminary budget and take it to that council and let them provide feedback on it. That's one thing. They don't have to wait until late January to call that meeting. So that's response number 1. And on the staffing, whether or not they are staying or not staying is a guess, obviously. If it is a vacant position, what the finance people do is they take the average salary for that position plus benefits, and they still fill it into the hole as long as that vacancy needs to be filled. If there is a vacancy, this gives the HR people a heads up on how many teachers in this category and how many counselors and how many social workers do we need to start recruiting, because recruiting starts in the spring, and if you don't grab them up early, you don't get them. So this is trying to give a bump up for HR in the recruiting process to allow them to begin that planning. And I know that we're going to have 5% vacancies, so I'm going to fill some of these positions. This is all advanced planning, trying to be more proactive in the way that staffing are allocated, hired, recruited, retained in that process. Third thing, the way that they are looking at the budget, one of the budget assumptions that I'm understanding from finance is all of the salaries, step increases, and COLAs are all being factored in to the dollar amount of salary that will be projected for a given campus. So with the help of the principals, trying to figure out who's going to be there, how many of them are there going to be, and so forth. I've got 3 teachers at step 5, a couple here, a couple there. What are their salaries going to be next year? That is built into the formulas so that they can act or as accurately as possible, because it is a guess. You don't know who's going to quit and whether you're going to hire someone with 10 years experience or 4 years of experience. So this is a way to project and do advanced planning as opposed to reactive. Oh my God, I've got 10 vacancies. I don't know what to do. Is that helpful at all?
Yes, it is. Yes. Helpful to you? You asked the questions.
Yeah, I understand what she's saying.
Any further questions for Ms. Betty? Do you have more to present?
No, ma'am. That
Oh.
is the end.
So I don't see any further questions. I do want to say thank you for the presentation. I know, this year, like we mentioned in the beginning, this is a tight crunch, but I am excited to see where we take it, and also for next year, we'll have a head start on this, which is something to look forward to, I guess. And so a lot of the stuff that's crunching right now, we'll have a lot more time to work on. I want to thank the staff for really taking your time, all your time on this the past few weeks. You really do see the work you put into it. So thank you all for this. I don't know if anybody else has any further comments. Well, if we don't, Mr. Majida?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion.
Thank you, ladies.
Adjourning at 9.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lady.
Hey, Joanne?